Welcome to the Hunters Hub, a Monster Hunter community podcast for hunters by hunters. Alrighty. Welcome, hunters, to the Hunters Hub, episode 5. So, this week, it's just Wrath of Gog and myself again. And today, we're going to talk about a lot of the Paris Games Week info that came out. We normally don't like to talk about news stuff, but this stuff is just too exciting to ignore. We got to talk about it.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if it's still in the Discord, but I talked so much about this, and I just kind of popped in, and then I just randomly started just throwing a whole bunch of stuff on there.
It's like
it's
like a
you
dog that
hadn't
comes
watched
out of
anything
nowhere.
yet. You hadn't watched anything
No, I
yet.
hadn't.
And I just started
Yeah.
posting. I posted a picture of Eric's character with a beard. I posted a video of 3 monsters fighting each other. I posted about the whole thing with people getting to go on the trip to try the game up to 4 stars, which is something we'll talk about. But anyway, yeah, I was very excited.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I didn't think that Paris Games Week would have so much. I think they did mention that they were going to be there, but
I mean,
I
didn't
figured
think
it
that
would just be the demos.
I didn't think Paris Games was going to be that big, but also it's not all of it. I mean, a lot of it had to do with, us getting lucky with a few people asking certain questions that sparked huge conversations, like the loot boxes and stuff, which we can get into. And also the fact that I think mostly because France is so important to, Germany and France and I think like Brazil or something are kind of big non-Japanese areas that are really well known for being into Monster Hunter. So it doesn't really surprise me that they would do something in France after they did something in Germany and in America. So I doubt they're going to do something in Brazil, but it doesn't surprise me that much that they would do a promotional video that's a new one. And it just kind of got stacked onto with the fact that all of these journalists got to come the week before, so they poured out all of this info and game footage, which is awesome.
Yeah, there was a lot of videos out there. And I'm still catching up with everything.
Oh my god, there's so much.
I think I caught the highlights though. Eric's covered a lot of it, which is good. Even though he wasn't there, he was in Japan. He had some other footage. So I guess we should just really get into the biggest thing, which I think is trailer 4, the Rotten Vale. So just like overall, how did you feel about that trailer?
So I still think I liked the Coral Highlands one better overall, and I think it might have just been the way it was put together and the fact that they had so much story in it. This one didn't do that. This one was kind of like the other ones where it was just, this is the new area, this is stuff from the area, it's cool. So it wasn't like as, I don't know, like promotional, there wasn't a lot of stuff happening, it was more just gameplay. And it was just cool to watch. I really thought that all of the new monsters, even the copy and paste Uragan, are really cool. And I know that's intentional, but
I wouldn't call it copy and paste. I mean, it's definitely in the same vein as Uragan and probably the same model, but yeah.
I mean, it's supposed to be like a relative that's living there, and I think he looks really cool. And there's also some things I wanted to say about him aesthetically that were pretty cool, but
sure.
Overall, I think the video was really cool with how they mixed in the whole idea that, like, we've been told that the Rotten Vale is actually below the Coral Highlands now, which
Were we
is,
actually told that, or was that
yes, that was
speculation?
actually
Because
something that was announced. I can't remember
oh,
where,
okay, because
but
I just heard it as speculation so far.
yeah, I can't remember where, but I heard that was actually like announced.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I have all the things from the Mega Thread on our Monster Hunter up, but I don't know where they actually put it. Anyway,
Um, there might have been a Twitter response if I'm
oh, that might have been
remembering
what it is.
correctly. Yeah.
Um, anyway, I think the video was just really cool. I think the actual aesthetic, like, first of all, the actual area, my first impression of it, I could not believe what I was looking at. Because just like the Coral Highlands, it's way different from anything we were expecting.
Hmm.
Because we're still expecting a volcano and a snow area. And
Hmm.
I don't think we're going to get a snow area at all.
I don't know. I still think we
So
will.
the reason I'm saying that is because the Coral Highlands seem like a high place.
Yes.
And I feel like that's as high as they're going to get some snow. And,
I mean, unless you go somewhere else.
well, yeah, like if it's off the island somewhere else. But, like, this
Yeah,
seems
but
very tropical.
I mean, even tropical areas have snow because they're so high up in mountains and that kind of stuff. But I don't know. The Coral
Yeah,
Highlands could be really far up
yeah, I
as
feel like
far
the
as
Highlands are,
elevation.
like, already kind of taking up that space, like, up high, which means that, to me, there's not another place where they can have, like, a high, I don't know how to explain it. They can't have, like, another place that's of a higher altitude that'll get them snow. But
Well, I think the only reason is I don't think we really saw that the Coral Highlands was cold.
besides the fact that
And
Legiana is ice,
I mean,
which is
yeah,
actually another argument. Why would they put an ice monster in a place that's not ice unless there's not going to be an ice monster?
I don't know. I mean, there's trying to think. Was ice an original element?
Yeah, it's always ice, fire, water, and lightning.
I'm trying to think though. Like, I don't know of a Gen 1 monster that had ice. I think it was Gen 2 that introduced ice.
Hmm. I mean, there's still ice in the game. Like, we know there's still an ice element in this new game.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Okay.
I just don't. I was trying to think. It's not. I don't think it's an original element. I think it was
Hmm.
added in Gen 2.
So was it
But
like in the first game? Was it just like the forest, the swamp, the jungle, the volcano?
in the desert
Okay.
and the fortress.
Hmm.
I could be missing a map, but there was no. The first ice level was the Gen 2 Misty Peaks.
Okay.
Not Misty Peaks. That's the
Not
wrong
Misty
name.
Peaks. The
Um,
Mountain
yeah, the
Ridge.
mountain. Yeah,
Arctic Ridge.
sure. It's the mountain with the Blangongas. um, but yeah. I don't know. I think there's still room for both an ice and a warm area because, like, I mean, if you think about it, because I mean, there is ice on. I don't remember his name already, but the apex predator of the Coral Highlands.
Legiana.
Yeah, Legiana. Legiana has ice, okay, but that doesn't mean that there's not a cold environment. You know what I
True.
mean? I really don't see them taking out cold and hot entirely, right?
Mhm.
Like hot drinks, cool drinks. Maybe they are. Maybe that's something that is interesting that they're just doing away with that mechanic because it was annoying enough for me to make sets around it.
Mhm.
So maybe. But I don't see that happening, which means we still have to see those environments that do that. But then again,
I mean,
like,
maybe the desert will still have that hot and cold thing, but then it would be kind of weird that that place would be exclusive to have that
right? Yeah, and
use.
I didn't see anything about drinking cool drinks in the videos we've seen in the desert.
Mm-mm.
I mean, we haven't seen a lot in the desert, but
Yeah, but I don't think we ever saw that unless they removed it for the demo. But then that's a whole nother thing.
yeah, that's an
It may not be
interesting
there
point.
actually. Um, but anyway,
Hmm. So, back to the overall trailer itself.
Yeah.
What I felt, it was kind of cheeky of when they released it.
Hmm.
I don't think it's just like the Paris game trailer, just the fact that it was Paris week, but it was also right before Halloween. Do you know how much of like a horror vibe that map gives, and the
Oh
music they
yeah,
put
it
on
is
top of that?
literally covered. It's coated in dead bodies and skeletons and rotting animals.
And the music has like this like building like tension. It's
Hmm.
like this kind of feels like they're taking advantage of this Halloween season for this trailer.
It was
I just
gross.
Yeah, it was. I mean, even from the monsters, like Odaga and Odagna,
Wait,
the
wait.
red one.
Uh, Oda, Odagaron, Odagaron,
Yeah,
Odagaron,
Odagaron.
Odagaron. I don't know.
I don't want to focus on pronunciations too much because we can't even get them right 13 years later. So, um,
Well, it's because no one's
but
ever said them before.
I mean, I'm sure people have said them. We're just not Japanese.
Oh yeah, true.
um, so we'll just call him Odagaron. Odagaron is like he's like a pretty much like a skinless dog,
Yeah,
and
it's disgusting. It's awesome.
and, and then the Urigan clone, as you called him,
Robodon.
Robodon. He's like a bone armored necromantic Urigan. Like I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's like
He's. What I wanted to point out. Well, I think we should go into them specifically one by one. So
sure.
I'll
I
wait to
mean,
say it.
yeah. I'd like to also.
Hmm.
Um, it's just crazy that like there's just like very horror theme
Yeah,
with like this
the Great Gyros was another one, and that was like a
the cobra.
snake-headed lizard.
Yeah, yeah.
It's I
The
think it's
cobra
what
fanged
we got
wyvern.
the hammer from.
Hmm. Yeah,
Because the
that
hammer
makes
from the
sense.
demo is black with gold stripes on it. And it
And
was using
paralysis, right?
paralysis, and that's what the monster used in the video. So, and it turns like green. It had like there
Uh,
were multiple shots of it, or unless that's like another great something.
it could be. Now, I'm not saying it is, but I have seen a lot of green smoke come with their when they're playing with palicos and they're doing like a healing thing.
Oh, okay. It just was well timed.
Maybe.
Well, actually, no. In the video, he was standing over a Zitsuyaku,
Hmm.
so I think he actually like his chest was green because
Okay.
so when he in the footage that they showed from
Hmm.
Paris Games Week, which is another thing we'll go into, um, it leaned back and it kind of like roared and it did this weird thing where it's like under flaps on its snake head. It's kind of turned red for a second, and I wonder if its
Hmm.
chest was turning green too. I watched it in really low quality, so I don't actually know.
Yeah, there's a lot in these trailers. I mean, I've watched it a couple times, and I watched it. I mean, just before we started recording here too, and I still missed some stuff. I bet. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's a very unique thing. I
Hmm.
think. So, I want to get before we get into the monsters scene and this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
I want to talk about the map itself specifically. Now, we
Okay.
did touch like bodies and that kind of stuff. The thing, and we also touched that it's possibly under the coral.
Yes. Coral
Coral.
Highlands.
Yeah, Coral Highlands, and it's what strikes me is different, and I've seen this through. This is now the fourth map we've seen.
Yes.
Each map has sort of broken that sort of generic forest, volcano, jungle sort of like just theme. It's like,
Hmm.
yeah, I'd never have felt the maps are generic by themselves. I'd never have felt that.
Hmm.
They have generic names though, and you could just sort of lump them in at like this is Gen 1's jungle, this is Gen 2's jungle. Gen 3 didn't have a jungle, but like here's their forest map or whatever. I mean, I guess you could argue that the flooded forest is a jungle. I guess.
Yeah, I would
This
say
stuff
it
like
basically is. Yeah.
they've always been unique and they've had nice like scenery and features and that kind of stuff. But they've always had this sort of like, okay, so this is the X map for this game, and that is happening in this one.
Hmm.
So the ancient forest, the desert. We've been calling it the desert, but it's actually the Wildspire Wastes. The Coral Highlands, we don't know where that fits. I don't know where that fits.
I don't either.
Um,
The water. So they were going to have a water level. They were actually going to bring back swimming, and then they were like, nah, and then,
yeah,
and they just drained the
yeah, I
water.
saw that. Yep. The Rotten Vale. I mentioned this in a comment on the subreddit. Is like I like how just like how much personality is really infused in these maps. It's not that the older ones didn't have personality; they've just amped it up.
Yeah.
Because I fully expected a generic swamp.
Oh yeah.
I fully expected just like here is a swamp map, here's a volcano map, that kind of stuff. And I fully expected us to sort of see that. Okay, so what is their take on the swamp? Because even though they're unique, the Wildspire Wastes, it's still like that. Still fits that formula in my head. It's still the desert. And then we get to this, and it's like it's not a swamp, but it sort of serves the purpose of what the swamp did.
It's just gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah, the Vale is definitely very just blech. I mean, it's awesome looking though. Like aesthetically, I can't even believe the design. It's so cool.
I did see a lot of people say that it's a Delamador, the giant skeleton.
Yeah. Like there's just a giant Delamador body just wrapped around the entire area or something crazy.
Which is cool. It's not the first time they've done that though. I mean, even is it the ancient?
Oh yeah, they said it was in the not what is it? Not the Misty Peaks. The Poison Forest, the one that's in 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. There's a giant skeleton that you're basically sitting in. It's a giant tree, basically, is what the map is.
Yeah,
no, that's Ancient Forest, and this one. I'm getting my games confused. Yeah, it's
many games now.
It's the one with the red cliffs and For You.
Mm-hmm.
That one. Yes, that central area. You are looking through a giant rib cage, which could be a Delamador. So
I think someone said that it was it doesn't matter. Let's just move on. I've been thinking too hard about this.
Yeah, I mean it's cool that they always have these sort of giant skeletons.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you get to see like, okay, so this used to be a thing.
Also, I think it's really cool because 4 Ultimate is not a HD game, so being able to see him, even if he's dead, in his full form is really cool.
Yeah,
I would actually like. I think it would be sweet if they brought him back for this game, but I think it'd be hard to implement him in a less boring, annoying
constricted
way. Yeah, because I mean, I don't see him as boring. I actually really like his fight, but I know a lot of people think of his fight as because it's one of those staged move here, and then there's too many meteors for you to do anything, and you keep climbing up the same cliff over and over.
Yeah,
and it's very repetitive, but. I don't know how we could take that and give it more fluidity, even in a higher AI, in a better AI stance. I don't know if it's really possible to make that work in this situation.
I'm sure there's something that they could do, but I'm not privy to what that would be.
Mm-hmm.
So we did mention that we wanted to get into the individual monsters.
Yeah, definitely. Should we start with Robodon just because we kind of know his build? Like, we kind of know his deal a little bit.
Yeah, so Robodon is the brute wyvern that is essentially covered in bones. And from what I've seen, it's that he covers himself in the bones by rolling around in them, which is a cool idea. It's like an armor. It's not actually him. Mm-hmm. I like that idea, and it's pretty... It's kind of unique, but the problem that I have with that idea is that's some really pinpoint rolling around because he looks really good.
Oh, dude, he looks so cool.
Like I would expect like some of the bones to be like sideways and like
no, his hips do not lie that he knows how to put bones on his body because they're like half and half Diablos horns on his sides and. I would normally be bugged by the fact that they're on there so perfectly, but at the same time, he looks so cool that I don't care.
Yeah. So I think I think maybe there's a better explanation for how they designed him than what they gave us. Like, there could be, I guess, but either way, he's pretty cool.
Hmm.
Um, his move sets, though, that is an Urigan through
Yeah.
and through. The chin slamming that we saw, the rolling he rolled into a chin slam, which I believe is a G rank move.
Hmm.
Now it doesn't necessarily confirm or deny G rank in this game, although I'm not expecting there to be G rank in this game. Um, the there's all sorts of moves that you can see that Urigan does,
Yeah.
which kind of reminds me, like, a lot of these things have, like, they're not really unique models
Hmm.
so far. I
I
think
mean, I think
almost everything has been
almost
uh,
everything except
something.
for the Toby Kadachi model is
Well,
new and crazy.
yes, Toby Kadachi and
And the Odagaron.
Odagaron. Yeah, he's totally unique too.
Yeah. I mean, they're very. They definitely have similar moves because they're the same body.
Him and Toby, yeah,
Yeah. Toby and
yeah,
Ogi.
Toby and Ogi,
Or just Toby and Dog.
yeah, Odog. What do you think about Rodoron?
So, Roboron, or
What?
I don't
Yeah.
know. Well, so I had only seen glimpses of it in the first video. I learned that he was basically Urigan by seeing his moves, because you can see him do the double chin slam, you can see him
Hmm.
do his roar, you can see him do his big chin slam, um,
I
and
hope
then we
that
got
war
the
is as good as Urigan's. I loved Urigan's.
oh yeah, doesn't he? Doesn't he sound
Yeah.
like a train or something? I can't remember.
I don't know. I think
Oh
after
no, I'm
our
thinking of
Cutku and
Baroth.
yeah, it was like after our Cutku discussion on what the roars sound like. Three crows versus a kid screaming. It's just, I don't think we're going to be able to describe roars very well.
Oh man. Um, but yeah, it was super cool to see him in the gameplay that they showed off
Hmm.
because initially the guy runs in, he kind of runs down the hill, you see the big giant skeleton of Dalamadur, and
Hmm.
then this thing just rolls past him immediately. Like they had it set up that it's like this is the first thing he's gonna see, so we're gonna have him just hanging out over here, and he's just gonna come by. Um, and holy crap, it scared the crap out of me. And the
Yeah.
second thing I noticed was not only is his skeleton so, perfect,
Yeah.
but when you look over like his full body, you can see that he's covered in tar, which I thought
Yeah.
was awesome because they're giving the whole idea that, he's covered in tar and he's just picking up bones. And yeah, it looks perfect, pinpoint perfect. But again, he looks so cool. I don't care.
He's a everybody loves a well dressed man or
Hmm.
Urigan. So
He is well dressed. Don't know if he's a man though. We don't actually know. But
oh yeah, we should be PC about these
yeah,
monsters. A well
it
dressed man/woman dinosaur.
man slash woman slash whatever it wants to be. Um,
Right.
um, yeah, it's a. I can't think of any of the different sex
Yeah,
description
we don't need to.
descriptory words off the top of my head, but he's one of
I don't
those
think we need to
things.
go into that.
um,
Whatever it wants to be, dinosaur.
yeah, whatever wants to be dinosaur. That's where we go. That took way too long to discuss. Anyway, I also liked the new moves it gave him. One of the new moves he did is like a shovel thing he does with his chin, where he runs forward and he was like smushing the ground with his face, sweeping it back and forth. Kind of how at Lelka from Double Cross, when he uses the big mech
Hmm.
monster, he drags his face across the ground as he stomps forward, and that's basically what this guy does. Um, but
What
with
about uh, I can't want to say Urigan. Ucanlos. Is it
oh
is it kind of like Ucanlos where he
no no no
shovels the
no
ground?
he walks forward and he like drives his face into the ground on the side. He kind of like how so the original Urigan can do a hip check.
Yes.
This guy kind of does that, but he forces his face into the ground, kind of crushing forward, and he's a little bit more forward when he does it, much more forward momentum instead of turning. And he drags
Okay.
it through, and then he turns his head and he keeps dragging forward to kind of settle himself straight again. So he kind of goes forward
Oh,
in a like an angle.
okay. I
Um,
gotcha.
oh wait, I have the footage up in front of me, and he just did it. I will figure it out. So basically, he actually he does what I'm trying to think what his name is. You know how Diablos does the thing where he kind of like turns his head and he throws himself forward? That's basically what he's doing, but his head's farther down
Hmm.
to the ground, so he's dragging it through the ground. So he does that thing where he turns back and forth as he moves forward.
Okay,
The other thing
I
that he did,
gotcha.
which was insane to me, and like completely threw me off, was the fact that he can now do a double roll. So instead of him stopping and then turning around and rolling again, he actually will roll until he hits a wall, and then he grips it with his spikes, turns his head to see you, and then throws himself off the wall to hit you again. Much faster than before, because he's pushing off a wall.
Okay. So like someone doing
Yeah,
laps in
basically,
a pool.
he like crumples up against the
Okay.
wall, and then he slides off, and then he pushes off with it, with all the momentum. And yeah, he also has the G rank move where he rolls and then slams his chin down really fast, which I thought was awesome. Um,
Yeah.
and mostly just because of the fact that you finally get to see it with an animated, like the ground, like the dust unsettling. It just they make it look so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, this game's just beautiful. But anyway, that's enough of me just freaking out about how nice it looks. Yeah, I think we covered
Oh,
him pretty well.
so what about a Dogrin then?
Well,
What are
I
your
I
thoughts
want to
about
hit
him?
him last because there's a lot of things I want to say about him.
Okay, how about Cobra
Cobra
Fangs?
Fangs, the Great Gyros. Um,
Yeah.
he was, he's just kind of there. He's just like the Great Jagras in his body type. He's a little salamandery lizard dude.
Yep.
But I do like
Well,
how,
not very
oh
little,
no,
but
not tiny.
little in comparison to
He's like four
other
of you
monsters. Yeah.
long, but
Yeah.
he is, one of the smaller guys. There's not really much to say about him, except for the fact that he, seems to have some sort of rallying cry, like most of the great, whatever's
The
the
great
great
everythings. Yeah.
everythings. Great Jagras, the great the
Boggies,
Roggies,
Joggies.
Joggies, Jaggies, Baggies,
Yeah.
uh,
Drones,
Dromes
Velocidromes.
in general.
Except for Zephyrjump. Zephyrjump doesn't call for friends.
Yep. That was that's the which one is that? I don't even remember which one we're talking.
Zephyrjump is the sand piscine
Oh
wyvern.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Piscine.
Yeah. Piscine, Piscine. Sure.
That's like that reminds me. You know the thing tomato tomato. Why do people say that? Because no one says
Hmm.
tomato. Everyone
I
says
don't know.
tomato.
I
You've
don't
never
know. Well, I mean, people do say
really
tomato. That is a
really?
thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I just live in a
Yeah, but
very agreeable area because all I hear is tomato. But anyway,
well, I mean, but then I say, do you say tornado?
no,
And I'm saying, unless you're Spanish, you don't.
that's true.
But anyway, yeah. Again, pronunciations.
Um, but yeah. Anyway,
But yeah, that's what
yeah.
he is.
So great Giro. He's just kind of there. He's a little lizard guy. He's got like the snake fangs. He's got the cobra head, like the furled out parts that make him look larger. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and he does paralysis damage. He has these little helper gyros.
Mm-hmm. Heroes. That's what we're gonna call them.
Oh yeah,
Like the
like the food.
sandwich. They're
Yeah.
all heroes. Yeah. Here we go.
Um. So yeah, actually, I might be how you're supposed to pronounce it. And like, I wonder if Spanish people will actually pronounce it that way because it's spelled the same, isn't it?
Uh, well, heroes are not Spanish; they're Italian.
Oh,
But
oh yeah,
yes.
yeah. Sorry. Um. But one of the things that I thought was cool, which I mentioned before, was that he changed color, and I don't know what that means at all.
Mm-hmm.
But we saw him change color,
Could
and
be a
then the
rage
actual
mode.
footage from Paris, we saw
Mm-hmm.
him calling to his brethren. Except he did
Yeah.
there was like a weird vibrating red light that came from under his snake flaps. Sounds really disgusting,
Yeah.
but that's what they are. Um,
His hood. That's what you would call it, as his hood, because of Cobra's hood.
yeah, oh, okay, cobra hood. So yeah, he
Yeah.
had these red vibrations, and then all of his little helpers ran at you and attacked him, or ran at the hunter and attacked him. So that was kind of cool. But overall, not too much to say about him. Um, I'm more excited to
Okay.
talk about O Dog.
I don't know. I think the Gyarados, or whatever you want to call him, I think it's interesting because we're seeing um, possibly this is an indication that we've always had these sort of lower tier
Hmm.
monsters that are the pack leaders. So we started out in Monster Hunter with the Velocidrome, then the Gendrome, and then the
Hmm.
Iodrome. So you have Vanilla, Paralysis, Poison,
Hmm.
right? You then got the Great Joggy, the Great Boggy, and the Great.
Roggy.
Was Roggy?
Roggy was
Portable Third is where
Roggy
Roggy
was
was
poison.
introduced. He's the poison.
Jaggy was
Yeah,
vanilla. Baggy was
yeah,
sleep.
and then Boggy was sleep.
Baggy w-
I was
Baggy
trying to
was
think.
sleep, and then there was not a
Was there?
paralysis version.
That's what I was trying to think. Like, wasn't there another one? But I don't think there
No,
was.
because
But
before there wasn't a
basically,
sleep one, and they had
right?
Baggy.
Yeah. So basically, I'm seeing this pattern come up with, the Gyarados or whatever you want to call him, Gyarados, uh, uh, and the Jagras. So we have Vanilla. We now have the Paralysis. Is next one Poison? I don't know. But we also have Flash
Hmm.
Raptor, and we have the yeah. Again, I'm not familiar enough with these names yet. Um, and the guy who carries stuff, the raptor who
Oh,
carries
the
things. Puka,
Kulayaku.
no, Yuka Kulayaku. Yeah, the Puke Puke is the other
Yeah.
one. But
Ziziyaku,
the
Kulayaku.
yeah, so we're also seeing raptor
Hmm.
types, which are following different trends, like
Hmm.
entirely. So it's kind of confusing because those would normally be the drones, but so far those two, the Flash Raptor and the Stealing Raptor,
Are very
are
different, but are
loners.
considered part of the same thing.
Right, but they're loners
Yeah.
too. And that's different for raptor type monsters in
Hmm.
Monster Hunter. So like I mean it's really cool that we're actually seeing a lot of I would call maybe lower tier monsters. We've seen quite a few lower tier, we're seeing some mid
I mean,
tier
the
and only a
game
few high tier.
so far, I mean, if we're looking at a low rank thing, then I think that makes sense that we're going to see lower animals in that spectrum, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. But yeah, that was basically all I had to say about
Hmm.
him. So I guess all we have left is
Oh,
Odogron
there
and
there
Mystery
actually was one
Creature.
more thing now that I think about it that I wanted to say about um the Great Gyros.
Uh huh.
One of
Yeah,
the things
whatever.
that I noticed in the video is that he actually paralyzes the Uragan or the Robodon, um, which
Oh,
is really different because that's not something we've seen before. Um, because
uh,
usually, yeah, we
yeah,
see
well,
that
yeah,
animals can attack each other now. I mean, they've always been able to attack each other, but when a
it's always
monster
been
attacks another monster
inconsequential.
in every single iteration of the Monster Hunter games until this game, whether it's a fireball or a a tail flip or whatever, it's always just completely raw damage
Yeah, it never
when it
applies a
attacks another
status.
monster. When it hits another monster with it, it's just raw damage. There's no element effect. Um,
Hmm.
so when a Rathlos hits
Well,
a
it has an element effect
yeah, but it's
because
negated.
like if I'm not sure, maybe the damage
It
is,
might be turned into
but
raw, but
the
like in general,
yeah.
so the element doesn't actually it's not actually an element, when they attack it, if that makes sense.
Well, I think you're meaning status.
Well, no, no, no,
And,
both.
okay.
Um,
Well, elements do really much other than damage.
I know,
Because
but
they
it's
might
not
apply
considered.
burning and that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
but against another monster, it's not considered an element towards their hit zones. It doesn't apply in that
Sure,
way.
but I mean, I guarantee you, Jaggies get hit by fireballs and they are flaming when they die. So,
Are they actually? I know that it doesn't actually affect. Like, it's not. They don't get blights or
well,
anything.
the fire effect is on them. Well, I don't think they get blights, but they're definitely they
Okay.
have like a
Well,
burning.
long story short, the actual elemental damage is either turned into raw, or it is not considered that it. What for all senses and purposes, it is not considered that element when it hits another monster. Um,
Right, they don't get
they're not
affected by it
affected through that
essentially.
element. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm wondering if that's being changed because in this we see a status element used by another monster that affects another monster with that status. Um, and that's really cool.
Well, yeah, no, that is really cool, definitely. Because it would be another thing is like you would think that Gypsarus, when it's just spitting poison everywhere and hitting things, it would be
Hmm.
poisoning. Um, Now, I think
Oh, actually, now that I think
that
about it, smaller animals, they can be sleeped, they can be poisoned, they can be paralyzed, just not larger monsters.
right, right, yeah, it's smaller monsters. I was going to say because you do see that happening with KO from a Flash, which we do see from what we was called Flash Raptor, as I've
Hmm.
been. Flash Raptors knocking out the smaller flying ones out of the air several times in these trailers.
Hmm.
Um, but also, Gypsarus has always been able to flash lower
Hmm.
monsters. So, not
Yeah,
drones,
and they
but
can poison the other
prey and
small
that kind of
monsters.
stuff.
They can status.
Yeah, yeah.
The thing is, they can't do that to larger monsters. Like
No, and yeah,
you'll never see a
that
great
is definitely
baggy
what's happening here.
sleep a
Hmm.
Barioth in Monster Hunter Try or something like that.
Right.
Um,
Yep. But that is pretty
yeah.
interesting.
So anyway, that was what I said. Actually, another thing that you can see in the footage is that one of the other monsters poisons the Great Gyros too, which is also
Hmm.
another place that you can see that. Anyway, yeah, I think we should definitely move on to O-Dog now. Sorry. I added like twice as much time as we had on him before.
That's fine. So, Odog, as the basically we mentioned earlier, he's the basically a canine, large like fanged wolf
Hmm.
almost. I wouldn't really call him a wolf. He has more of a dinosaur head.
He
Um,
kind of has like a kind of like
I
a he reminds me of a saber tooth a little bit. The way his jaw is set up.
so yeah. Gosh, I really wish that I could remember what someone called it. Someone on the sub actually called it out, but there's an ancient reptile that looks a lot like
Hmm.
that. It's a very dog-like
Hmm.
reptile. I just, yeah, you go ahead and talk about it, and I'll chime in with what that
Okay,
was.
so basically O-Dog, he's kind of the same body type as the Toby Kadachi, where he is on all fours. He has a long tail,
Hmm.
and he kind of has a he doesn't really have long neck. His head's just kind of set in his shoulders. He has a very wolf-like body structure, even though his head, according to Fortuan anyway, doesn't really look as much like a wolf, which I think makes sense. I think it's definitely still a little bit more reptilian jawed. Um,
Hmm.
but what's really crazy is that he is blood red, and it gives him this crazy, like, skinless look, which is absolutely horrifying and also awesome. He has spikes covering
Yeah.
his tail. He has like two pairs of claws on his feet, which is weird and cool. Um, and he has just a lot of crazy fast attacks where he jumps forward and swipes and jumps backwards, um, which is really cool. He has a very just he's like thin looking, almost like it's starved a
Hmm.
little bit, and it's like just lifting off of all these food scraps. We got a lot of really cool shots of him from the Rotten Vale preview trailer thing, and we got to
Hmm.
see him attacking the Robodon, where the Robodon slammed its chin on the ground, and he dodged around it, jumped on top of the Robodon, and ripped into its neck. And you'll actually, if you guys,
Yes.
if you guys go and you watch that the actual Paris Games Game and Guest, which was the place that recorded it, Monster Hunter World video, you can see it
Hmm.
actually all the way through that attack, which starts at I think 27 minutes in. You see that you can start seeing the gameplay of the area, which is basically what we're referring to throughout this.
Hmm.
Um, and it's really cool because he just seems so primal. Like it's kind of like how he kind of slinks around the monster and then jumps at it. It's very like it's very similar to older pack hunting monsters, even though he's a loner. But
Hmm.
it is very very cool. He also does the same thing. Well, not really the same thing. He kind of gets a one up on Robodon a little bit, whereas we also get to see it fighting Palumu in the Coral
Hmm.
Highlands, and that's a whole nother story. He absolutely
For those of
destroys
you unfamiliar, that's Fluffbat.
Fluffbat. Sorry, Fluffbat. Um, he absolutely
Yeah,
destroys him. Fluffbat's flying in the air, and
yeah, he
O-Dog
pulls them
jumps
out of the
up.
air.
You can see him grip the
Yeah,
fluffy section of like the fluffy sack, air sac, out of his neck, and he pulls at him and just slams him down into the ground, and then shakes him back and forth like a dog. Oh my
yep.
god, I could not even comprehend what I was watching when I saw that. Um,
What if O-Dog is the new Devil Joe?
that some people were saying that. I saw some people saying that.
Yeah,
And I can completely see people like why people would say that. He's spiky like Devil Joe. He's just wrecks
not
everything.
near as spiky, but yeah,
He looks like one of those things that would just show up. You'd be hanging out fighting a little Palumu, and he just jumps up, rips the thing apart, and then just goes away. I think it would be cool if they
yeah.
brought Devil Joe back just so he could eat monsters whole and you wouldn't be able to get any parts from them. Just to make people hate the
I
game a
mean,
little bit more.
someone's got to be a troll, and it's going to be Devil Joe.
Someone's gonna mod the PC
Um,
version.
so I did find the the ancient reptile that it is like,
Hmm.
and it's called a Garganopsid or Gorgonopsid.
Okay.
Um, if you look that up, so it is Gorgonospid.
How? Wait, can you say that
Um,
again?
the
Wait,
spelling
I
or the
just want to
Gor
say that to you because I think I got it right. Gorgono ep. What the hell is ep?
S I S.
PSID.
Yeah,
Oh my god. Okay. Yeah. I found. Oh wow, that actually does look a lot like it.
yeah, yeah. They are fairly. I don't know. I would call them a fairly obscure ancient reptile. Not a
Yeah.
lot of people
It's like a
know a lot
dog.
about.
It's very. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's
exactly what it looks like. That's
um.
cool.
So this is sort of like the age of early reptiles and amphibians
Interesting.
before dinosaurs.
Interesting.
Um, so this is like we're talking extremely ancient
Yeah.
animals. Um, this is pre. This is pre.
T Rex, obviously.
Triassic. No, pre-Triassic, which is the
Oh wow.
first
It's
era. Yeah,
pre-dinosaur
era
area.
of
Yeah.
dinosaurs. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, if you look up that's pretty much what this resembles.
Hmm.
Although it is far more agile than this thing would have been. This thing is like really just like a slinking lizard that wouldn't have the kind of mobility that they're showing in
Yeah.
this thing. But yeah, that seems to be the inspiration
It's
at
very
least.
cool.
So I think I think it was pretty cool. I do want to call out that Reshkrom 1153 is the guy who mentioned
Hmm.
this. That I looked it up. I was aware of that creature, but he was the one that put a
That's
name
cool.
to it. So yeah,
We'll have to go to him and
um,
consult him for the other names of the monsters. Then we're gonna have to like
I
he's
mean
gonna
it's
have to
just
interpret every single one as a dinosaur for us. So then we can have like we'll be the ones that know everything, and then we can switch it off and pretend that we did it. Which obviously doesn't work because I'm saying this on a recording. But if we can get him to do this before this recording goes up, we're
mhm,
good. So another thing that I wanted to talk about outside of
mhm,
ODOG was um, the other thing that we saw in the trailer is that there is another monster in the trailer. We just
Yes,
couldn't
yes.
see it. Right at the end, you see all these little gross, like, just covered in slime and disgusting stuff. All these little lizards walking around, and then there's a wall of just decay. It's like a big pile of stuff, and arm reaches out and grabs something. You can't really see any of it. I can't even tell what that arm's supposed to be. Um,
Yeah, the arm is obscure, but I think those are the small heroes. The
yeah,
small.
yeah. I think they're just covered in disgusting slime. Um, which is fine. Like I think it looks really good anyway. But
Hmm.
yeah, it was very cool to see how they cut that together because they
Hmm.
don't give you anything, which is awesome because even with Zoro Magdara, you could Magdara, Mag, yeah, Magdara, you could tell what
Yes, the
he
initial
you
trailer.
could tell what he was
Yeah.
supposed to be.
Yeah, he's the very big like boss-ish
Hmm.
monster thing that you see at the end of the trailer that we've seen through many trailers is sort of like an end like there's this thing.
Yeah.
It's the crazy thing is like I think every all four trailers has had something. So if you think about it in terms of the maps shown, like the big monster shown at the end of the Ancient Forest one, or the initial reveal, is the big guy you just mentioned.
Hmm.
Still, sorry, I'm still trying to get
Oh,
names in
good.
my head. Then we sort of get a glimpse of him again, at least at the end of the Wildspire
Yep.
Waste trailer, but also with Nergigante, um, which is a lot more revealed than what we see. But still, it's sort of this end cap. Like, look at this awesome
Hmm.
monster. The end of the Coral Highlands trailer, I can't remember what that had. I don't think it really had that.
Hmm.
Like this sort of like ending ooh ah monster. But this one definitely
Oh
has
yeah.
it, the Rotten Vale.
So
And I don't know what that is. It has claws that doesn't resemble. You can see its claw basically,
you're talking about the Rotten
and they're
Vale
very
trailer, right?
hooked. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The
it's
very
very
end of the
gnarled.
Rotten Vale trailer.
Like it's like it looks kind of like
It's very bird
yeah,
talon like.
taloned. But they're like
Yeah,
curled off to the side. It's really gross. It's like deformed.
yeah. We could possibly be seeing some really crazy stuff come out of
Which
this,
I'm really
or
excited for.
it just looks, yeah. But I mean, aside from that, there's not really much to say on that
Hmm.
one. It's just really cool, and they show it right at the end of the trailer, and of course the logo covers up a lot of that cutscene.
Hmm.
Um, but that makes me think like I'm pretty sure we're getting the monster intros back for Monster Hunter 4
Yeah, I
Ultimate
can't
for the
wait.
Lost in
I'm so
Generations.
happy with that because
So, just a little bit of context for people. When you first encountered a monster in single player mode, which is there's no such thing now,
mhm.
it's just both single and multiplayer. It just depends on if you allow people in your room or not. You would get this sort of pseudo intro cutscene where your hunter typically is running away or being surprised by, or something happens where the hunter has to. They're sort of showing how dangerous the other monster is, or in some cases they do it for not really comedic effect, but it's a little more lighthearted intro
Mhm.
about some things. The one that stands out to me by far is the again I'm blanking on names. The
Describe him.
her
Okay, describe her.
the bug, the giant bug,
Great Celtis
Celtis
Queen.
Queen,
Oh.
Celtis Queen. Yep. Uh, the Celtis Queen that you're see a Celtis and you're like, oh okay, and you just basically see him get like, you basically expect him to be
Yeah.
dead, right? He gets clamped with her tail and shoved onto her back, which is just what she does. Um, so basically, there's just like giant intro of this like gargantuan like bug monster you got to
Mhm.
fight. That's the one that stands out to me the most because I just how good of a
Yeah.
reveal that
And
is.
also that it's
Um,
just like all the other cutscenes in that game. It's very it's almost like they're showing a story of how you see them, and they're showing off mechanics all in a little cinematog cinematic. There we go.
Yeah, in a
Yeah,
cinematic
a little
way. Yeah,
cinematic intro, and it's very nice. Whereas Generations, they took a step back, if I can say it
they
that way.
do an in-game action. They freeze the
Yeah, they
camera
do
and
a little freeze
rotate it.
frame.
Yeah.
Some of the splash effects are still moving in the freeze frame, and it's really gross. Um, the
Hmm.
font is absolutely disgusting. There's just oh yeah, so
Hmm.
they do a freeze frame, and then their title pops up, and it looks
Yep.
gross because it just pops up, and it's like white, weird, gross text font. I don't know what it is, but it's ugh.
Yeah. Anyways, so it looks like there's going to be a return of that sort of
And I am
intro.
100% fine with that.
Um, One thing I hope that we get again is the full-on ecologies that we used to
Yeah,
get. So, like, you would basically, as a pseudo reward for killing some
you get a
monsters, you
second
would get
video
this
of it.
little. Yeah, you get a basically a CGI video of just like a monster in the world by itself. And if you guys ever get the time, go look up Kuripeka's ecology. One of the best ones. It's funny. Um, Kuripeka's ecology is sort of like a window into Kuripeka's apparently very annoyed life.
Yeah,
um, Outside of the context of being hunted and hunters and that kind of thing. So it's nice to see that sort of world building go there. Now, one thing that is I could see them doing it because there's technically still is zones, but now since this is open map design where you can go anywhere and traverse the map in multiple ways, you're not zoning in and out of areas. Um, it used to be when you enter that zone, then the cutscene
mhm.
would play. I don't know how they're going to handle this in the new
Especially when it's
game with the sort of
multiplayer. Yeah.
open map design, but we'll see. Maybe it is an after the effect thing,
Hmm.
right? Maybe you just get to see like, after you unlocked so and so intro, like I don't
Hmm.
know, but that is something that'll be interesting to see how they do that if that is the case, and we're not just being shown like made up situations for
Yeah,
trailers,
it may
which
be a
has been done in
skippable
other
intro
games.
to the like to the quest or something too. Like when you're in a
Right?
group, if you all
Yeah,
skip
maybe.
it, or like if everyone's seen it before, it doesn't show up. If someone hasn't seen it, then that person can choose to skip it or not.
Right. Um, yeah. So that's another cool thing about that monster. Um, Personally, I think I only really wanted to talk about one more thing from Games Week. I think the trailer is really just a majority. And we've talked around the
Hmm.
trailer too. Um, but I think the biggest thing, it's a video that you shared to me um, right around this thing, is where we saw the multiple monsters, three specifically in the
Yes,
Wildspire
it was
Wastes,
the Gerotidos, Raytheon,
simultaneously.
and Baroth.
Right. Yes. So the hunt was against a Juritados or Mudfish. And so Mudfish is running away from the hunter. It's been hurt a bit,
Hmm.
so it's running away to regroup. And the hunter runs
Yeah,
into a
and
Baroth at the
another thing I
same
want to point out, there
time.
was four people, which is cool too. And they
Yeah.
see the Raytheon, and then they see a Baroth walking away to the side, and the perspective that we're watching from is Yuri. A
Hmm.
he is a game or he's the
He's a community
community
manager for
manager
the
for
United
America,
North
North
America.
America,
North America.
for Monster Hunter,
Hmm.
which is
For Capcom. Yeah, Capcom Monster Hunter. He's a Capcom employed community manager for Monster Hunter in North
yes,
America. Whew.
and it's very it's very funny because they're all running in. Baroth's minding his own business. Raytheon kind of roared but is looking away. And Yuri immediately runs up and shoots them both because he's like, we got to show this off because this is really fun. And all
Yeah.
three of them just kind of converge and start attacking each other and the people. Everyone's kind of running away and just watching from afar. Yuri's running in with his hammer and he's smacking everything around. Which, by the way, he was using a Baroth hammer, but it was new. It wasn't the normal Baroth
Yeah,
hammer,
yeah,
which is really cool.
yeah. Baroth never had a hammer
No,
before.
he did. He
Well,
did.
no, he did.
It's
He
just,
did.
I think the
Yeah.
textures, the way they used them, it looked good in the older games because it was that weird, you know, um,
Inspired.
multiple
Yeah, yeah,
cylinder shape, and that was kind of cool
yeah.
back then. But now that we actually have the ability to make it more realistic, I think it's interesting.
I mean, I don't think that the 3DS would have affected the design of the weapon. I think it's just
Yeah,
redesigned.
it might, maybe, yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
it would make it look higher res, but I don't think
Okay.
it would have affected the
And
design.
also, maybe it's just at a lower stage, so it's not like fully
Maybe.
because it was like a bone head, and then it had a crown of those cylinders on it. Um,
Hmm. Yeah, that might be interesting
yeah,
to see it
I
sort of
think
progress to
Eric's
be what
explained
the
that they do look different as you progress like they all look kind of similar at the beginning, all at the base they're kind of similar, and as they branch off into the separate ones, that's what they become.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you can kind of see that concept just through the game in general, because there's always been the concept of weapon
Hmm.
trees, and then but sometimes you can shortcut the tree and just start from a certain
Yeah.
branch. Like a lot of the Joggy and Macau items come from like their own branch, but like a lot of so the Macau starts a branch of
Hmm.
weapons, at least for the charge blade, and a lot of the other like Raptor weapons branch off of that branch, but you can craft them
Hmm.
at their certain points also. So that's probably it's sort of like a better visualization of that idea, I would say, is you can see it sort of become what it is more gradually versus, it looks like this.
Definitely.
Now it looks like this. Yeah. I think that concept was always there. It just because I mean there's similar designs.
Hmm.
They're just iterated on. Then again, there's sometimes you start with a bone hammer and you end with a crazy, weird weapon that had nothing to do with the
Yeah.
hammer at all. Um,
I mean,
but yeah, yeah.
another thing that I wanted to talk about was
No, I hadn't actually got to talk about the triple fight. What I thought was cool is that we saw not just the fact that the three monsters were in the same area, but they're also all three interacting with each other. But we also saw the Juritados wrap around the Baroth,
yeah,
and we saw the Rathian tail flip them.
which was awesome.
Yeah, um, and I think it's interesting. Although I think it's kind of jumping to conclusions, but I saw a discussion that it didn't seem like Rathian had a lot of like some of those special animations with other
Yeah.
monsters. Um, now, given the small amount of video and stuff that we've seen of that specific thing, because I was like, oh man, we got to show this off. It was in that
Hmm.
video. Um, that I don't think that necessarily means there isn't animations
Yeah.
between Rathian and
I
those
wonder if they only
monsters.
wanted to
I
show off specific ones yet. Like or maybe they weren't
maybe,
implemented.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a
And like I can see
possibility
some
because
monsters not being able to one up other ones and not having a special animation. Like it seems kind of hard to give Puke Puke something against Great Jagras just because they're both kind of weird, and like I don't know how they could interact with each other besides maybe the Jagras getting knocked over or the Jagras knocking over Puke Puke, or maybe that it poisons the Jagras. Like
you know what I think it should
what?
do. I think it should jump on the Jaguar's back with its tail facing over the Jaguar's head. Its tail wrap around and stick the end of the tail right on the Jaguar's nostrils and pump in poison.
What?
That's
Wait, what?
Yep. So stand up. It stands on the back of the
Okay.
Jagras with its tail facing over its
Hmm.
head. So facing backwards. It then attaches that tail to the Jagras' nostrils and pumps in the poison.
Oh, that
That's that's my
wow. That's
idea.
that's it's pretty kinky. Um,
Nah, it's just forceful poisoning.
everyone has their word for it. Um, anyway, I'm not sure how I feel about that one, but that's what you want. You can go out and you can figure it out. You can code it that way.
I'm
You
just
can
saying
mod
it
it.
could be something. It pounces it and poisons it. Like I mean, there's stuff you can do.
Yeah.
Or, maybe the Jagras, gets the one up once in a while and bites the tail instead.
Hmm. Yeah, that's another thing. We don't actually know if anyone actually has a like can one up the other one. Like we know that Baroth.
We know that Barroth can throw
Yeah,
him off.
Baroth
Yeah.
is even with Dorotados, which is the one reason that I think they should have all of them have animations if some of them can be even leveled and be able to knock
Hmm.
each other off. Be able to knock each other off. But we'll see.
That would be an amazing feat of programming if everything had an animation against everything else that they could
Yeah,
encounter.
that's the one reason I'm not sure there will be. And I hope people aren't disappointed
Yeah.
with that because for everything to have like impact physics for everything else for every single animation of that would be insane. Um,
So, already what they're doing is kind of
yeah.
insane. You think about it,
And
really.
another thing about
They're having to deal with hunters on top of monsters, and like all these different
mhm,
situations. I mean, we've seen like I don't think any one animation has really been that badly done, other than the one we saw in the original trailer where Anjanath
Anjanath.
kind of. No, yeah, I just said it
Okay.
differently, but that's not what I was pausing for. Um, he kind of, I was trying to think how to say it, sort of glitch jumps
Yeah.
in the nest. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? Where it had that sort of like, that kind of felt weird. It sort of like auto corrected
Yeah,
the
they kind
jump,
of clip a
but
little bit.
yeah, but that's really been the only problem I've seen with these animations so far. Now, granted, I've not seen as much as is out there so far, me
Hmm.
too, but because I mean, I'm kind of pseudo trying not to spoil myself. Now, granted, the fact that you and I run a podcast about this stuff, and
And
I'm
then I
also a
scream at you and
moderator.
show you everything.
Yeah, and I'm also a moderator on r/Monster Hunter. I kind of don't have the ability to miss everything and sort of keep myself unspoiled, but I just don't watch everything because I don't want to oversaturate myself and be over knowledged about it. And then you know what I mean? Like you don't want to be spoiled on everything.
Sorry. Oh, another thing that I wanted to say just with the animations. Um, I
Sure.
noticed when they all, like all three of them at one point, they're crushed into a little tight area. And you can see the Baroth kind of vibrate back and forth, trying to be in his position. And he gets, like, kind of pushed out. Um,
Hmm.
and I thought that was interesting because, you know, to me that looks kind of gross. But at the same time, what is the game really gonna do when three things try to push through an area like that? Um,
Yeah.
I think what put me off with that was mostly because you don't really see them jitter back and forth like that in the 3DS games. They just push each other around. Um,
Yeah. Well, it is important to keep in mind that we don't know if it's the final version or if that's going to be the same in the final version, or like there's a lot of stuff that's we're seeing footage pre-release,
yeah,
so
I just feel like
it's hard to tell what's actually going to be there.
it's late enough that that's what's going to be there. But maybe that's because they're showing off demos where it's not. They want to show off an old demo that they know works. But we'll see. And it's
Yeah.
not
Oh,
something that
yeah. It's
like
just a
yeah, and it's
disclaimer.
also
Yeah,
not
it's
something
very
that
unlikely that.
bothers like that would turn me from Monster Hunter. Like that's not something I care about because I've seen gameplay of this game and every single gameplay I've seen of it has just made me more excited. The gameplay looks like it flows really well. Everything looks like it moves really well. Um, and like I'm completely happy with it. So if that was something that was in there in the end, it's not that important to me.
Right. Okay.
Another thing, and this was just another thing that kind of popped up in my mind when we were discussing Monster Hunter, like the Monster Hunter. Of course, that's all we're discussing. But the stream, near the end of the stream, they went deeper and deeper until they found an area that was filled with like iridescent water pools and stuff, and it was almost as if they got low
Yeah.
enough that they were away from all the stench, and like everything was dripping down into this area, and everything was like purified down here through the
Okay.
rocks and stuff. And it made me get really excited about how everything was connected. You have the Coral Highlands in theory, the Coral Highlands above. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Everything is coming down and dying in the Rotten Vale, and then it's coming through the rocks and all of this sulfur and crap, and it's coming down and it's purifying into water that is moving out throughout the island, and that just seemed so
Yeah.
cool to me. Just the fact that they would even think of doing that.
Yeah, it definitely plays into the bigger design of the
Hmm.
world kind of thing. And it is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I didn't see that myself, again, because I'm trying to avoid spoilers, but is to the best of my ability.
Hmm.
But yeah, so that I mean, they've definitely wanted to display how much that the world is, interconnected, not just through
Yeah.
maps, not just within the map, but through maps. Because I think they talked about the river or the water source that comes from the ancient
Hmm.
forest goes into the wildfire wastes. I think that was said.
Hmm.
Um, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
The last thing that I just kind of remembered that I wanted to say was um, in the yellow mist that we see around the area of the Rotten Vale. Apparently, it causes monsters to be more agitated, more aggressive, which was
Hmm.
interesting because that's very similar to Frenzy, which was in the fourth installment of the Monster Hunter games, or the fourth game technically, because there's a lot of different installments. But it's
Fourth
fourth
generation.
generation
It's not the
where
fourth game.
yeah, where there was a thing called the Frenzy virus, and what it did was it made things more aggressive, and then they would die. It's very
Yeah.
similar to rabies. Um, but yeah, it creates this kind of yellow, smelly mist that comes off of their bodies, and they're all angry and small and evil. Um, but
It just reminded me of the poop status the first time I
oh, the
saw it.
stench, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, or
I was like,
soiled,
okay, I guess it's just a poopy area.
soiled.
Yeah. I call it poop because it's poop. It's dung bombs.
Yeah. Um, and another last thing that I remember was that in the stream, you got to see Odogaron in his enraged state. We don't know why. We just kind
Mm-hmm.
of came up and he was angry and he was walking, and
Mm-hmm.
he had like bright red glowing on his body, on his haunches, like his shoulder. And he was steaming. It was very
Mm-hmm.
reminiscent of Devil Joe, which is another reason he's very similar to Devil Joe in my eyes.
Or Attack on Titan.
Oh yeah, that's what he is. He's a Titan. Oh, if that was a crossover, that'd be kind of cool. If that was a
I mean, there was the Attack on Titan Devil Joe that did steam.
oh yeah, it was that in
Yeah.
Frontier.
I don't know if Frontier
But yeah,
has Devil Joe,
basically
but
in that the collaboration, they made it so he was just skinless. He was just covered in muscle and he was steaming. It was disgusting, but it was very cool.
yeah.
Um,
All
yeah,
right.
I think we're good on that. They announced that there will be a beta for people with PlayStation Plus to be able to play Monster Hunter from the 9th to the 12th. It's going to be a demo,
Mm-hmm.
and just like most games, there's the easy, medium, hard, which will be Great Jagras is the easiest, Baroth is a medium,
Mm-hmm.
and Anjanath is the hardest. With that,
Interesting. I would have thought Anjanath would have been a mid
nope,
tier. But
Anjanath is
hey.
considered a 4-star. Um,
Okay. I still consider it mid
yeah.
tier, but yeah,
Well,
yeah. I
they
get
show they
the purpose
showed
of the
parts
demo. It's
of
hard.
they
Yeah.
accidentally. So there was a mess up, I think, at Gamescom where they could
Mm-hmm.
someone was able to fight Baroth in the game, and they both
Oh.
fought it, and then they were like, "Oh, you can't fight that," and then they removed it from the thing. But he was considered like the
Mm-hmm.
mid tier there, and then everyone was like, "Huh,"
That may,
and that's kind of why I'm pretty sure that he's considered the mid tier anyway. Um,
oh
Especially
yeah,
because
but that doesn't really mean. I still think it'd be a beginning tier monster in the overall scheme. I just think that's the scheme of the
oh
demo.
yeah, yeah. But anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
Great Jaggers is the easiest. Baroth's the medium. Anjanath was the hardest as far as I know. It might be wrong, so we'll see. But you will have the access to the areas, which are the uh, ancient forest for the
Ancient
Great
Forest
Jackrass and Anjanath,
and the.
and the Wildspire Waste for the Baroth. And what's cool is I
Mhm.
wouldn't be surprised if you could fight Rathalos in the demo in the Ancient Forest and be able to fight Diablos and Gerotidos in the Wildspire Waste, which is really cool. Um,
I I would be surprised if you had the
oh yeah, I
time.
don't think you'll be able to kill Diablos and Rathalos. Um,
Yeah, I think
they might not even
it's
allow
probably
it.
going
I
to
mean, no one
be.
was able to kill him in the demos in Gamescom, but we'll see.
Well, but that was because of a time limit, and that's what I'm
Did we
saying.
ever?
Like,
Do we
I
know if he
think
ever
that.
limped though, or did he just always live
Well,
through
I
it?
think I don't know
Yeah.
specifically, but I do know that at least Eric's mentioned it was literally because of the time
Okay.
limit that he couldn't. So it was like instead of the full 50 minutes of a quest, it's like 15 or
hmm
20, which is not enough time to both kill the monster that you're after and like
Mm.
Rathalos. So I'm pretty sure that the other monsters will be there, but I am also pretty sure that there's going to be a reduced timeline.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that, I mean, unless you, I mean, I'm sure there might be some people who may be able to do it. I'm
I mean, I just think if
basically
you
for
get
sure
four
that it's a
people, like if you
possibility.
got enough that and they were able to like CC the monster the whole time,
Mhm.
like if you got some speedrunners on this thing, maybe they could
Right.
figure it out. But
Um.
the other
Yeah.
thing was that also at the end of the trailer for the Rotten Vale, they announced that there will be a also PlayStation exclusive, the ability to, I think it's a DLC, or is it exclusive
Um.
just to
No,
it's
it's
a
an
free
event
event
quest.
for PlayStation players. Um,
Yes, it's
yeah,
exclusive to
to
PlayStation.
unlock Alloy, the character from Horizon Zero Dawn, and as
Hmm.
a actual armor. Do we know, or is it just cosmetic? Like
Yeah, it. I
it will
think
be an
it's an
actual
actual
armor.
armor for the cat.
The bow
Yeah.
and the little
Oh no no no! No. For alloy, it's I think it's one of the
cosmetics
cosmetic
ones.
ones.
Okay.
But
Um,
yeah, but no, for the cat, it's an
for the
actual
cat,
armor.
it's an actual armor. And then
Yeah.
the there's also a bow that you can unlock. We don't know if that's cosmetic
Yep.
or if it's actually a bow.
I think that one is
Okay.
actually a bow. I'm guessing off of stuff I've heard. I'm not. I haven't looked into it super. I have a PlayStation. I care zero about Horizon Zero Dawn
I'm
personally.
surprised.
Um, well, I'm not a PlayStation
Oh,
fan
okay. I'm just
at
surprised you
all.
didn't want to get into it just to
Um,
try it because of, you know, it being very similar to
I
Monster Hunter in
have.
general. I mean, it's got more of a story
Well,
and there's a lot of stealth, but
I was initially
hmm
interested. Then I saw some gameplay, and people were like, "Oh, it's like Monster Hunter," and I'm starting to see how much it's not like
yeah.
Monster Hunter, and I got less and less interested. And then Breath of the Wild came out around the same time, so
Yeah, that's funny.
no chance.
I know a lot of people, like, I've asked them about Horizon Zero Dawn just because I was curious, and so many people were like, "Oh, well, I started it and then I played Breath of the Wild," and it's like it's popped up for all these different people, and it's really funny. um,
Yeah,
just
there's some people who, I mean, not some. There's probably a lot of people that prefer Horizon over Breath of
mhm,
the Wild, and I mean, there's obviously a fan base there. They're getting. I think it's nice to mention that this is not the first time that Monster Hunter's done crossover with other
mhm,
games. It is fairly common since I want to say late third
yep.
gen that you get crossovers. I mean, there's been Mario and Luigi costumes for your
Yep.
cats. You can play as Samus in both Zero Suit and Full Suit in Monster Hunter 4U.
There's a ton of Japanese
Is it,
crossovers that usually pop up,
yeah,
like
there's all sorts of. I mean, we mentioned one
Strider.
earlier with Attack on Titan. Yeah, there's one Strider. I mean, like there's all sorts of
There's
stuff.
a Hunter x Hunter with the huge hair and
Yeah,
double cross.
I haven't
Oh
seen
my
that one,
goodness, you should look it
but
up. It's like,
again,
I mean, because it's Hunter x Hunter with this giant flowing hair, so it's like just huge, spiraling up into the air. Um,
sounds cool. I
I haven't
still wouldn't
watched the
know even if I
show.
looked
All
at
I
it.
know is that there's a giant head of hair that comes from that show, and it was beautiful.
Okay.
Um,
Um, So yeah, that was
Yeah.
announced. The
And
crossover.
then I think the
Um,
last huge thing that happened overall was so the week ish before the trailer came out. The first that we even
mhm,
heard of anything happening was Eric's on his Twitter said that he was going to Japan for a trip and he was going to be hanging out with Socks, and it didn't have to do with Monster Hunter. And
mhm.
everyone was like, okay, we don't believe you, but okay. And sure enough, he lied, and it was about Monster Hunter. He and a ton of other journalists from different places like GameSpot and IGN went there,
Mhm.
and they got to play up to from the beginning of the game, nothing being removed, up to 4 stars, which is crazy. Because that's all of the low rank part of the game. Besides, maybe they might have taken out some stuff that had to do with sensitive things they didn't want people to know yet. Like they got to play through the whole game, and they told them what they were allowed to show, and we got tons of gameplay. Um,
Mhm.
and this was especially cool for different monsters that we haven't really seen fight, like Tobi Kadachi and Puke Puke,
Mhm.
and the
Basically, we didn't get to see anything new. Just further in depth
yeah,
of what we've
like
already
we
seen
we
as far as
know yeah,
monsters
like we
go.
knew what Kuriyaku was about. We knew what Tobi Kadachi was about, but we never really got to see them in gameplay with just a random person fighting it, just like if you were encountering it in the game and you were just fighting the monster. And that was really cool because we got to see kind of their gimmicks and their playstyle. Um,
Hmm.
and I really just wanted to touch on that just because if you haven't really seen anything that's really gotten you excited for this game, maybe watching some of that footage will help because you're watching people that are playing the game and just finding the monster and fighting it instead of these ones where they're kind of exploratory and not really knowing what to do and they are going through the whole map. And these
Okay.
are very we went in, it's like the demo. We went in, we fought the monster until it was dead. There was no, scooting around looking at different things. They just went in and they fought it, and it was very organic. You just kind of did what you did to get there.
Yeah, more true to the
Yeah,
actual
so if you want
gameplay
to
is
see the
going to
playstyle
occur.
where you see like 4 people go in and just trash a monster because that's what you do, then that'll definitely help you see kind of the playstyle that you see in these games in that setting. Granted, a lot of them are
Hmm.
journalists, so they're not great. But what was funny is I another thing that I really got to see was the fact that a lot of them knew what they were doing. Um, a
Yeah.
lot of them knew what they were doing, and a lot of them were people that hadn't really played before. I think the GameSpot um, they had a discussion in one of their videos, and they were discussing how I think the guy that went to and played the game in Japan, he hadn't. I think he had played before, but he didn't really like the games, which was funny because he explained that he was very happy with how this was coming out. Um, and he was using I think the light bow gun maybe, and he liked it. He liked the playstyle and he was playing with it, and he seemed like he knew what he was doing. Like he seemed like he was at least firing on the monster and trying, which is cool. Um, I saw gameplay of people using the charge blade, and they weren't charging the red shield, which was kind of disappointing, but they were at least using the sword, charging it into their shield, and then going into the axe mode and using the axe. And that was awesome because they were at least doing that. They had the core
Yeah.
gameplay down. When we saw people in the other Monster Hunter games and they tried to use the charge blade, you'd see them hack away with the stick on because they overcharged it and they're bouncing on everything and they're confused. They probably don't know how to use a whetstone yet. They probably don't know how to heal. They probably don't know how. It was probably an hour before they even got to something they could attack. And it's just, it's a very cool thing to see this game actually, showing people how to play the game, which is something so new. And, we've talked about it before. We don't want a full handheld experience, but even Eric said the game was definitely challenging. He had footage of Tobi Kadachi and I think he fainted from 2 hits. Granted, he might have had weak
I know
armor.
it wasn't 2. It was in the first. It was the first 45 seconds.
Oh, okay.
So.
Yeah, and like he could have been weak armored, but
He was, yeah.
But still, it was funny to me.
What I want to talk about, just real quick, it was mentioned that there's a sort of a community feature coming out called Squads.
Yeah, that's another big thing.
So basically, you can team up with a bunch of people. If you guys are familiar with Titanfall 2, Titanfall 2 had these communities also. I don't know if they work exactly the same, but it sounds like they do. You basically make a community of people that you sort of like, not a friends list. It's separate from a friends list, but you make a group, and you guys sort of can communicate and sort of connect as sort of like like a PlayStation community and that kind of stuff. Something you build to sort of hunt together with, and it's a max of 40 people.
50.
I thought it was 40, but okay. Anyways,
It's all good.
Maybe 60. Who cares? It's a bunch of people. Make rooms together. There's like social features in the game to actually facilitate, inviting these people on the hunt.
There's arm wrestling. It's back.
Yes, and arm wrestling.
It was a little mini game that we had. Anyway.
Yeah. So what I wanted, there's not really a lot to say about that other than it exists and it might be kind of cool to do. But I do want to say I want to make a Hunters Hub group.
Mm-hmm.
And
except I won't be part of it because
I'm
waiting for PC.
You can be the head of the PC group.
Yeah. We'll have to... Oh, dude, this is perfect. We'll have 2 different groups. And then...
Yeah, so we'll have a PC and a PS4 community.
Other people will play on Xbox.
We'll find someone to head up, but I want to make an official Hunters Hub group.
I mean, I'm hoping once I get it on PC, I'll stream it on Twitch or make videos, so we'll see.
Yep, so watch someone take the name.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be really hard for us to be the first Hunters Hub, since Hunters Hubs exist in the game. But, yeah, it happens.
But we'll try. Or we'll call it the Hunters Hub Podcast. No one has that. That's just us.
TM. No, we're not.
Anyways.
Well, we should, but...
But yeah, so I wanted to do that, and I'll be on the PS4 community. I will probably be on the PC community also, but obviously later. So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to say. Is like I'm down for making a Hunters Hub group, and we'll make our own little clan symbol and everything. So there we go. So I think that about wraps us up today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hunters, for joining us today on Hunters Hub. And remember, we'll see you next quest.
Don't breathe too deeply in that yellow mist.
Thank you for joining us today, Hunters. You can catch our latest episodes on SoundCloud, and everything else you can catch on Reddit, Google Drive Download, and YouTube.